What happens when a group of trenched boys, led by a saint, seeks refuge in a castle on a rainy night? Join us today as we continue the adventure of St. Don Bosco and his boys, where faith and providence guide their way. The Miracles and Prophecies of St. Don Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Adrian Fonseca. Subscribe for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Howdy, and welcome back to the Miracles and Prophecies of St. Don Bosco. My name is Adrian Fonseca, and in this second part of our story, we follow St. Don Bosco and his boys as they find unexpected hospitality and face new trials during their annual fall excursion. Reflect on this. How do moments of hospitality and kindness shape our lives and the lives of others? Before we dive in, please consider supporting our mission. As a member, you'll receive unique benefits that I'll tell you about a little later in this video. So click the link in the comment section down below or in the description for more information. For the annual fall excursion, Don Bosco had arranged for the boys to go to Becci. During the hike, the rain had soaked the boys and they decided to stop at the castle belonging to Chevalier Oreglia. It was situated on the top of a small hill, and the path that led to it was mostly gravel, and the slippery climb was slow and precarious, with many a tumble. At one point in the ascent, they had soon heard friendly voices urging them up. They finally reached the wide open gate where the servants told them that Don Bosco was waiting for them. He had arrived an hour earlier to tell Chevalier Gonella of their coming. The Chevalier and his family warmly welcomed them and provided clothes from their wardrobe, the wardrobes of the farm manager, and the estate tenants. The boys removed their drenched clothes and put on anything available, emerging in the strangest outfits: oversized jackets, bathrobes, top coats, frock coats, blouses, blankets, clogs, slippers, and boots. All laughed merrily at each other's strange garb. A huge fire was kindled to dry their garments. Meanwhile, soup, a main course, and a very large pot of polenta were being prepared, and all ate with hearty appetites. Towards 10 o'clock, the rain had ceased, and Don Bosco wanted to continue his march. But his host would not hear of it, and ushered all the boys into a large hall on the upper floor to sing and entertain. The cleric Bon Giovanni impersonated Gianduia, and Sutel sang a Venetian song and a ballad, The Bridges of Pity, his composition. All chatted freely until midnight, to the great delight of the distinguished family, who also provided plenty of blankets for the night. Meanwhile, two older boys had gone to Villa San Secundo, where Don Bosco was expected for a religious service the following day. The two youths allayed the pastor's anxiety, assuring him that rain or shine, Don Bosco and his boys would be there on time. By the following day, the weather had improved, and Don Bosco and his boys left Chevalier Oreglia's castle. Around 10 in the morning, the band led the oratory into Villa San Secundo, under glowing skies. In the parish church, Don Bosco held a short service for the local St. Aloysius sodality by blessing a framed painting of their patron saint, the works of Charles Tomatis. After the ceremony, he preached the joy that St. Aloysius was now experiencing for loving God during his youth. In the evening, the oratory boys staged a small performance, which was interrupted by rain. On Wednesday, October 8th, after an early lunch and the recitation of the Angelus, they left for Galiano. The sun was blazing hot. At about 3:30, as the boys were sweating and panting, they began climbing a hill. A man who had been actively engaged in the 1860 government confiscations of religious property spotted Don Bosco and called to him from across the fencing garden as they went by. Don Bosco recognized his voice. "Let's ignore him," he whispered to the priest at his side. "It's better that way." At last they reached Galiano, and the band heralded their arrival with a tune. The pastor, Father Joseph Sereno, and his assistant warmly welcomed them. That same morning, Don Bosco sent a message to the pastor about providing bread for the whole group. Father Sereno immediately invited the boys to his newly built rectory, where tables and benches were rapidly set up, and a full meal was served. But he insisted on entertaining Don Bosco in his old rectory. The latter wanted to continue after a brief rest, but Father Serrano would not hear of it. That evening, there was a solemn benediction with orchestral accompaniment, and at 9 a stage play was given for the village folk in a courtyard lit by torches and oil lamps. That evening, the village boys had the time of their lives. Meanwhile, plenty of straw had been laid out at the new rectory for the boys' bedding. The following morning, Thursday, October 9th, the oratory boys edified the villagers by their devout attendance at Mass and numerous communions. And at 10, they left. Towards noon, they met a schoolmate near the small hamlet of San Desiderio. "A camasso!" They called out as soon as they spotted him. The boy, who was on vacation, went through his cheering friends, kissed Don Bosco's hand, and invited him on his parents' behalf to pay them a brief visit, telling him that a little snack was ready for the whole group. Afterwards, resuming their march, they passed through Grana and pushed on towards Monte Magno to call on Marquis Dominic Fossati and his wife. As they approached the village, a well-to-do 12-year-old boy happened to be playing with his friends in a nearby gully, close to a little country shrine known as Our Lady of Valino. The rapid drumbeat and bugle blast interrupted his game. "Did you hear that?" he cried. "Let's go see what it is." Leaving their hats and shoes and jackets on the grass, they raced towards the music. By that time, Don Bosco's group had reached the village square. The boy elbowed his way through the crowd until he stood in front of Don Bosco. The saintly priest was impressed by the boy's bold, candid look and asked, "What's your name?" "Luis Lozana. Would you like to come to Turin with me?" "What for?" "To go to school with all these boys." "Sure." "Well, tell your mother to see me tomorrow morning at the rectory in Vignale." As the boys and the band made their way to the castle, they were met by Marquis Fossati, who was thrilled by their unexpected visit. Instantly, his son ordered the household staff to prepare a hearty snack for the visitors. "Show them what you can do," his mother urged. Father Cogliero played the piano, and there was vocal and instrumental music, followed by a thank you to the friendly host. And then a final piece as the band and the boys resumed their trek to Vignale, just opposite of Monte Magno, on top of one of Monferrato's highest hills. There, Count and Countess Calori were expecting Don Bosco. A year previously, the Countess had met Don Bosco at a dinner at Marchioness Fossati's and had invited him to bring his boys to her castle at Vignale the following year. "Do you really want me to?" Don Bosco asked. "Certainly. I'll be delighted." "Then I'll come." At that time, the Countess was having serious problems. "Pray that they end soon," she said to Don Bosco. As was his habit, Don Bosco had momentarily raised his eyes to heaven. "No, I won't pray for that." "Do you mean my troubles will continue?" "Yes, they will. And perhaps get worse?" "Correct." "Then I must have patience." Don Bosco had foreseen the future. The group reached Vignale towards 8 that evening. Thick crowds of peasants disrupted their ranks. Count Frederic Calori came down to meet them. But unable to approach Don Bosco, he turned back and, with some difficulty, managed to lead the band to the castle. Swarms of people hemmed in Don Bosco. Luckily, a few sturdy youths shielded him from the crush. With torches lighting the way, they reached the castle at last. The Count's eldest son elbowed a way for Don Bosco through the crowd into the princely castle. Halls and corridors were brightly lighted. He personally seated the oratory boys at the heavily laden tables, and after supper, he brought them to the top floor where they found comfortable sleeping quarters. On the next day, Friday, October 10th, Don Bosco said Mass in the beautiful private chapel for the Calori family and his pupils. Since they not all fit in, the boys heard Mass from the adjoining hall. During Don Bosco's stay at Vignale, the cleric Celestine Durando interviewed and gave entrance tests to prospective oratory students. Luis Lozana, whom his mother escorted, Father Evasio Beccaris, and Vicar Foran introduced him and 3 other boys to Don Bosco. Looking at Lozana, Don Bosco remarked, "I can say nothing about the other 3 boys, but I am sure that this little redhead, Luis Lozana, will turn out well." All the boys were admitted to the oratory as students. On Saturday, the young count escorted the boys on a tour of the ancient castle ruins and the adjacent family mausoleum, fenced by tall cypresses. On Sunday, October 12th, at the Sacred Heart of Mary feast, Don Bosco and other priests spent 4 hours hearing confessions. Almost everyone received communion. At 10, a Salesian priest sang the High Mass, served by 10 altar boys, while Father Cagliero led the choir. After Vespers, Don Bosco preached in a dialect to the crowds filling the long, majestic nave. He told them the history of the Archconfraternity of the Sacred Heart of Mary, founded for the conversion of sinners, and so effectively did he speak that the entire congregation was deeply moved. In the sanctuary, Father Joseph Goria, Vicar Foron, wearing the mauzetta of his office, with his eyes brimming with tears, he kept them fixed on Don Bosco as he spoke for over an hour. Even though it did not seem that long, when Don Bosco returned to the crowded sacristy, Father Goria went to him and kissed his hand, tearfully thanking him for the good he had done for his people, especially their pastor. This part of the journey showcases the power of kindness and the unexpected ways in which divine providence works through others. St. John Bosco's encounters reminds us to be open to the blessings that come through the hands of strangers. And speaking of being open to the blessings, consider becoming a monthly promoter of St. John Bosco. Your support at any level makes a tremendous difference. Each contribution is an act of kindness that helps us reach more people with the message of St. John Bosco's miracles and prophecies. You'll receive various tokens of our appreciation when you sign up as a promoter, including Mass Remembrance certificates and pictures of St. John Bosco and Mary, Help of Christians. And you also will get free books when you become a monthly promoter of the miracles and prophecies of St. John Bosco. To become a donor, click the link in the description box down below or in the comment section. Your generosity is greatly appreciated and helps us to continue our mission. Today we saw how acts of kindness and hospitality, even from strangers, can become pivotal moments of grace and growth. Let's remember to not only be open to the blessings that come through the hands of others, but also to be a blessing to all those that we encounter in our day-to-day life. Now, I'm curious as to what you learned from today's video. What stood out to you the most? Let me know in the comment section down below. I would be very curious, and I'm sure others would be too. So don't miss out on our next episode, where the boys' adventure lead them to more incredible encounters and divine insights, including a prophetic moment that will leave you in awe. St. John Bosco, pray for us. May God bless you, and Mary Immaculate keep you under her mantle. God love you.